perception of the whole world is different. We're going to have to settle some big problems that are going on right now. We're going to have to.
What do you mean? We're going to have to. You settled it, right? Isn't it settled? It's been more than 24 hours since the fucking election, I think.
Settle up with Russia, Ukraine. That's a disaster. I look at numbers every week. The number of people being killed in that war. People don't know. Mostly soldiers now.
Yeah, that's how most wars are. I mean, there's definitely situations where civilians get it, but yeah, in most wars, the single demographic that are getting getting it the worst are usually the people who are holding guns on the front lines. Yeah.
But the towns have been obliterated. This was a Biden fiasco that that should have never happened. If we had a real president, if we had a president that knew what he was doing, Russia would have never, ever gone in.
Really? What would you have responded with? Why wouldn't they? If they wanted it, why would they stop? What was going to happen to them? All the shit that did? Or were you going to nuke them?
But they did go in, and we have a mess. The cities are all blown up. The people.
We don't have a mess. You're the art of the deal, dude, baby. Figure it the fuck out.
People have largely left, and the soldiers are killing each other at levels that haven't been seen since the Second World War.
Well, actually, they have. It's just they're Europeans, I guess, is what you've been focused on. We've seen a lot of other areas where there's been ongoing fighting for a long time that's killed even more than that. This is just trench warfare, is what you mean.
So we'll have to get that one straightened out too.
What do you mean? You got it straightened out, right? You already sent your plan, and they rejected it. Shit. Well, sorry.
It's a tough one. Much tougher than it would have been before it started. I can tell.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. I always find that fights are harder to break up after they've begun than before they've begun or even existed in the first place. Yeah. It's like cancer is always harder to treat after you get it. Super easy to treat when you don't have it, you know? It's just and that's common sense.
Tell you that. A deal could have been made just by an average deal maker. Deal could have been made on that. So thank you all for.
What deal? What was the deal?
Tell me, we'll take a couple of questions. Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Go ahead, please.
President, thank you. Wanted to touch on the world on fire that you mentioned, but let's start, if we could, with your references to Greenland and the Panama Canal, so forth. Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No.
And can you tell us a little bit of...
No, I cannot assure them of that.
What you're...
I might invade the Panama Canal, and I might sanction Greenland and stop all the shipments of green coming our way.
Plan is, are you going to negotiate a new treaty? Are you going to ask the Canadians to hold a vote? What is the strategy?
Yeah, I can't assure you. You're talking about Panama and Greenland. No, I can't assure you on either of those two. But I can say this.
I can't assure you I'm not going to invade either or use economic threats.
Need them for economic security. The Panama Canal was built for our military.
No, it wasn't.
I'm not going to commit to that now. It might be that you'll have to do something. Look, the Panama Canal is...
Yeah, he's going to seize the Panama Canal. He's not going to seize the Panama Canal.
Vital to our country. It's being operated by China. China. And we gave the Panama Canal to Panama. We didn't give it to China. And they've abused it. They've abused that gift. It should have never been made, by the way. Giving the Panama Canal is why Jimmy Carter lost the election, in my opinion, more so maybe than the hostages. The hostages were a big deal.
No, nobody gave a shit about a deal that was going to happen in 1999.
But if you remember, and nobody wants to talk about the Panama Canal now because, it's inappropriate, I guess. But
sure it is. It's inappropriate. Why? Because he's dead and you know it? And he's lying in state, so you're being an asshole?
Because it's a bad part of the Carter legacy. But
yeah, he's just being a shit. He doesn't care. He's just being an asshole.
He was a good man. Look, he was a good man. I knew him a little bit, and he... He was a very fine person, but that was a big mistake. Giving the Panama Canal to Panama was a very big mistake. We lost 38,000 people. It cost us the equivalent of $1 trillion, maybe more than that. Probably the most expensive. They say it was the most expensive structure, if we call it a structure, which I guess you can, ever built.
I would call it a structure. You know what? Maybe I wouldn't. Would I call it a structure? Sure. But I just go with thing. It's a big thing. It's a big thing. Big structured thing. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Structure, ditch. Ditch structure. Big ditch structure. That's common sense.
And giving that away was a horrible thing. And I believe that's why Jimmy Carter lost the election.
No, he didn't. Nobody gave a rat fuck.
Even more so than the hostages.
The hostages?
It's those two things.
Follow up on Ukraine and Iran, the two negotiations you'll be heading into. On Ukraine, you said just before it's a lot more complicated now.
Much more complicated.
Do you believe...
Because it would have never started.
Right, but it has started.
What the fuck does that mean?
Well, not only started, the cities are largely knocked down.
So you've got what you've got. At this point, to hold on to leverage in dealing with President Putin, would you make a commitment to the Ukrainians that you will keep supporting them during the negotiations?
Well, I wouldn't tell you if that were the
case. Would you make a commitment to provide a security guarantee if they do enter into an armistice or a ceasefire along the lines that the French and the Germans?
I'm not going to tell you anything because I haven't thought any of this shit through. If I tell you, you'll know I don't know what I'm talking about. But if I say I'm not going to tell you, I get points from my side for being mysterious and a great deal maker. Better to remain silent and be thought a fool than open your mouth and remove all doubt. Meets also the maggots will realize that I have no idea what actually, that everything I would think up somebody else has thought up before, and mine's just a dumber version of that. And also I'm on Putin's side, so he'll get mad at me.
So
if I talk about the deal, I have to talk about what they might get, and he doesn't want them to get anything, so I'll get a nasty phone call.
A big part of the problem was Russia for many, many years, long before Putin said you could never have NATO involved with Ukraine. Now, they've said that that's been written in stone.
No, it wasn't. Actually, in 1997, NATO and Russia formed the NATO-Russia founding agreement, which allowed for Ukraine to join NATO if it wanted to, as did all the Baltic states, all the former satellite countries of Russia. If they want to join, they can. If they don't have to. That's 1997. Written on paper, actually.
And somewhere along the line, Biden said, no, they should be able to join NATO. Well, then Russia has somebody right on their doorstep, and I could understand their feeling about that.
Yeah, us. What are we going to do? They should be afraid we're going to attack them.
But there were a lot of mistakes.
They have Finland's right on their fucking doorstep. That's closer to St. Petersburg, arguably within missile range of Moscow just as much as anything else. It just would block missiles coming to the United States. You don't give a fuck. Whereas Ukraine would block missiles if they had a missile defense system that would be going into Europe. And that's why Russia doesn't want them there.
Made in that negotiation. And when I heard the way that Biden was negotiating, I said, you're going to end up in a war. And it turned out to be a very bad war. And it could escalate.
Hold on. What the fuck? You're going to end up in a war? No, you didn't.
War could escalate to be much worse than it is.
Yeah, totally. Any day now. We're already in World War III, and we're on the verge of it, and also in the middle of it, if you really think about it. But don't think about it, because we're probably already there. It's probably already over.
Right now.
They can never join NATO.
Well, my view is that it was always understood. In fact, I believe that they had a deal, and then Biden broke it. They had a deal which would have been a satisfactory deal to Ukraine and everybody else, but that Biden said, no, you have to be able to join NATO. And that's always been, and nobody knows more about NATO than I. Years ago, when I first started this, I didn't know too much about NATO, but I got it right anyway. I said they're taking advantage. I'm the one that got, and the Secretary General.
No, you're trying to threaten them so that they wouldn't be able to meet it, because after 2008, a lot of them were still recovering and they weren't putting 2% of their military spending into NATO. And so you threatened them because you thought it would fall apart. And they called your fucking bluff. They called your bluff. You thought that would capsize it. Russia thought this would too. That if you said this and America seemed wobbly and you demanded something of them that they weren't willing to commit, that it would fall apart. And then Russia would move while NATO was on its heels. And NATO went, wait a second, you're owned by Russia. We know exactly what the fuck you're up to. And they committed. They put more money in, which scuttled the whole fucking plan. You don't get points for them calling your bluff.
Was here, as you know, 2 weeks ago saying that if it weren't for me, NATO wouldn't even exist right now, because I raised from countries that weren't paying their bills. At that time, 28 countries, 20 of them were not paying their bills, 21 to be exact.
Also, what bills, motherfucker? They don't pay us.
They weren't paying, or they were paying a very small portion. And I raised over $680 billion. That was
No, you didn't. He acts like this is tariff money.
the number he gave, by saying, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you.
No, they realized you were probably going to walk away, so they decided to fill the gap because Russia's that big a threat. And they figured Putin had his hand up your ass, and they were right.
And as soon as I said that, the money came pouring in. But Obama could have said it. Other people.
He didn't have to say it because they could trust us. And he was also right at recovering from 2008 like everybody else was.
People could have said it. Bush could have said it. Nobody said it but me. I took a lot of heat. They said, oh, that's a threatening statement. Well, they weren't paying their bills. I said, we're not going to protect you if you're not paying the bills. So, in a true sense.
What bill? I mean, I guess the next question is, what bill are you talking about? What do you mean bill? You're not paying your bills. What do you mean you paid up? What does that mean to you? Explain it. In layman's terms, where was the money coming from and where was it supposed to be going? Who writes the bill? Did we write them an invoice and they refused to pay it? Can somebody just fucking ask him that question? Can somebody go, what are you talking about? Pay your bills. Oy.
Since I saved NATO, but NATO's taken advantage of us. And one of the problems that I have, and I've said it openly, I said it to President Zelensky, Europe is in for a tiny fraction of the money that we're in. Now, whether you like that situation or not, Europe is much more affected than the United States. We have a thing called the ocean in between us, right?
Yeah, fuck them. Yeah, this is the argument against, look, I understand Jews are being rounded up in Germany and taken to Poland and killed, but, you know, it's not like they can come over here, Pearl Harbor.
Why are we in for billions and billions of dollars more money than Europe? And, you know,
because Ukraine has the potential for having an economy bigger than Germany's and being a better ally to us than Germany has been in Europe. We would singularly have the highest economically producing country in Europe as effectively our most powerful ally in the region, period, bar none. That's why. That's why.
They're a similar size, a little smaller, but they're a similar size economy as the United States when you add them up. And yet Europe is in for a small fraction of the number the United States is in. Now, Biden could have called them up during the term. That's what I did. I said, you have to pay your bills. And they all, one stood up. I won't say who. You'll probably have it because
this. Are you sure you wouldn't defend us? And I said no. And we've heard this story before.
Be media hate.
Yes, you do hear a cat. I think that's Murph outside. Hold on. Murph, what are you doing? I don't know where he went. I heard him too. Wait, you're not in the closet, are you? Sometimes he gets in the closet and then he gets locked in. Nope. I heard him. I think it was Murphy.
Needed to report on it, but a prime minister stood up from a country, you know, our famous meeting of 28 nations with no press, no anybody in the room. He stood up. He says, does that mean if we don't pay our bill, and at that point it was 2%, it should be 5%. It should be 5%, not 2%. But at that point it was 2%, but many people didn't pay. Some people didn't pay anything.
So 5% so that for military-industrial complex reasons, is that
but
why?
Many people were way, including Germany. Germany was at less than 1%.
Right. Ukraine is a better ally than Germany.
You're going to press for 5%?
Well, I think NATO should have 5%, yeah. Well, you can't do it at 2%. I mean, at 2%, every country, if you're going to have a country in a regular military, you're at 4%. I think they should be, you know, they're in dangerous territory. I think it should be, they can all afford it, but they should be at 5%, not 2%. I'm the one that got them to pay 2%. But a gentleman stood up, a prime minister stood up, and he said to me, sir, could I ask you a question? You're saying we have to pay our
Same
bills. If we
bullshit.
don't pay our bills, will the United States protect us from Russia? I said, if you don't pay, you mean you're delinquent? He said, yes. He said, if you're delinquent, we will not protect you. I took a lot of heat.
Yeah, and that's why they started throwing the money in. It wasn't because they owed us fucking money. It was because they literally lost faith that America would back them. And that's when Russia started its plan to attack Ukraine. That's when the plan started. And then he lost the election, and they had to punt a year because of the weather, essentially. Because there was when their window of attack was going to be, they had to move it because Biden would have reacted the way he did. He was like, yeah, no. Like, as soon as he came into office, they'd be like, fuck this. We're sending Ukraine everything they need. NATO would have jumped in because Biden had won. Now, if Trump had won, Russia would have just walked right through Kyiv in a matter of days.
Although it was somewhat closed door, I took a lot of heat from the media. And you know what happened? The money started pouring in. That's why NATO has money. And the Secretary General said it was the most incredible thing he had ever seen in a negotiation. Now, if I would have said, yes, we will, nobody would have paid. If I would have loved to say, yes, we'll protect you even if you don't pay. But that's not the way life works.
Mr. President, two questions related to each other. First, you said on your first day of office, you're going to pardon January 6th defendants. Are you planning to pardon those who were charged with violent offenses?
Well, we're looking at it, and we have other people in there. And as you see, I guess 24 or 28 people came now from the FBI. That came out very quietly. Nobody reported it, but they had people in some form related to the FBI. They had 4 or 5 people that were strongly related to the FBI. We have to find out about that.
Informants, motherfucker. They didn't have FBI agents in there strongly related to the FBI. What, did they have a cousin?
We have to find out about Hezbollah. We have to find out about who exactly was in that whole thing, because people...
Wait a minute. Sorry. January 6th was now... fuck Antifa. It's now Hezbollah. Hezbollah. These people... So, sorry. Maggots were tricked into attacking the Capitol by Hezbollah now.
People that did some bad things were not prosecuted. I see it all.
Wait, sorry. There were Hezbollah operatives that attacked the Capitol that day as well and weren't prosecuted? What?
The time, and you see it too.
No, nobody sees it. Nobody knows what the fuck you're talking about. What do you mean? What are you talking about?
People that were doing some bad things weren't prosecuted, and people that didn't even walk into the building are in jail right now. So we'll be looking at the...
No. And some people, by the way, yes, for coordinating. But, yeah, those people organized a bunch of people who showed up there to beat up cops and paid for it. That's the RICO ones. He means the Proud Boys guy. That's his stand back and stand by wink and a nod.
The whole thing, but I'll be making major pardons, yes, please.
I'll be making major pardons, yes. Yes, the violent ones. So they can go home and kill their relatives who turned them in.
Good afternoon, Mr. President.
Please.
On Jack Smith's report.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. It's good to see you again. 2 questions about Syria and the ongoing war in Gaza. About Syria, the Pentagon disclosed last month the U.S. has some 2,000 troops in Syria. That's almost double the number initially we were told of 900. Will you keep that troop capacity the same upon taking...
Well, I won't tell you that because that's part of a military strategy, but I will say it was Turkey. Turkey's been after that country in different names and different forms and shapes for 2,000
You mean the fucking Ottoman Empire?
years. Those people that went in are from Turkey. And President Erdogan is a friend of mine. He's a guy I like, respect. I think he respects...
Like Putin. So this, basically, Syria is Turkey's Ukraine.
Me also. He's the one that didn't go after certain people after I requested that he not. You know who I'm talking about? The Kurds. I don't know how long that's going to, because they're natural enemies. They hate each other. But he didn't do that.
Natural enemies, like cobras and mongoose? Not ideological or racial enemies?
Yet. And he didn't do it in the past.
Just territorial resource war?
Also. He started, and I said, please don't do that, and he didn't do it. So,
bullshit.
But if you look at what happened with Syria, Russia was weakened. Iran was weakened.
By who?
And he's a very smart guy. And he sent his people in there through different forms and different names, and they went in and they took over, and that's the way it is.
So the Syrian Democratic Forces are a Turkish proxy army, according to Trump. And that's the beginning of their negotiating point about what will happen to Syria after the fact. So basically, Syria gets divided between Turkey and Israel at this point. That's where we're going? Cool.
I don't mean to interrupt you. Do you have concerns about HTS taking control of...
By the way, I have the envoy here.
The envoy here? Envoy?
Is that in the back? It is. Standing with my son, Eric, is Steve Witkoff, who's just got back from the Middle East, and he's done a fantastic job. He's a great deal maker. I said, what we need there is a deal maker, because nobody makes a deal. We have people that understand where the rivers are and where the meets and bounds are, but they can't talk.
That's right. Where the meats are and the cold cuts are separated from the little pickles.
They can't make deals. Steve's.
No, they can't make deals. Nobody makes a deal like Trump makes a deal, like between the Turks and not killing the Kurds temporarily.
Done a great job. I just want to thank you, Steve. You've been working endlessly.
Hey, maybe, wait a second. Trump supports Turkish expansion. Cenk Uygur suddenly supports Trump. Nah.
For months, and he's working specifically on the hostages, trying to get them back.
In Syria?
Steve, come up for a second. Maybe you might want to say a couple of words.
Yeah, come up here. Fuck this up for me.
I didn't know Steve was going to be here, actually.
I didn't know where he is. I don't know who anybody is.
He's done a fantastic job. And it's a dangerous job, too, and we appreciate it. He didn't
Fantastically dangerous job.
know about this kind of danger and the other deal making he does. Now he sees a lot of big danger. Come on up, Steve.
What, are you trying to get him killed so you can buy his property?
Second part of that.
It's very sad what happened to your husband, and of course the banks will be seizing all of your properties because somehow all of his IRS paperwork disappeared, and so guilty until proven innocent. Sorry, ma'am, but yeah, those are all Trump properties now. I don't know. Get fucked, I guess.
Hamas.
I'm going to give you a little report on the hostages, if I can, Steve.
Yeah, Steve, tell him what's up with the hostages, man.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Wow.
I wasn't expecting to say anything about hostages right now. Oh, shit. Well, so far no good.
Well, I think we're making a lot of progress, and I don't want to say too much because I think they're doing a really good job back in Doha. I'm leaving tomorrow.
Who's they?
Back to go to Doha.
Who's they?
But I think that we've had some really great progress, and I'm really hopeful that by the inaugural, we'll have some good things to announce on behalf of the president. I actually believe that we're working.
What, are you trying to get them to keep the hostages until the inauguration so you can pull kind of like a reboot of Reagan?
In tandem in a really good way, but it's the president, his reputation, the things that he has said that are driving this negotiation, and so hopefully it'll all work out and we'll save some lives.
Gibberish, meaningless, blather, zero details.
I believe we've been on the verge of it. I don't.
Yeah, for a year.
Want to discuss sort of what's delayed it. There's no point to be.
That Yahya Sinwar is dead and there's no functional leadership of Hamas, and Islamic State has taken over the control structure of what's left of Hamas, and they've dug in and decided it's time to go to the other side and fuck all the civilians around them, and mean like that? Gee, I don't know where I got that from.
To be negative in any way, but I think it's the president, his stature, what he said he expects, the red lines he's put out there. That's driving this negotiation.
Yeah, they heard him say, I could get the Ukraine-Russia thing solved in 24 hours, and they decided, shit, we better get on our A game and negotiate something, or he's going to fuck us up like, oh, he did what? Oh, it has been, you're right, it has been more than 24 hours. I don't know, maybe he's full of shit. You want to get a burger, or?
I'm going back.
By the way, this is the guy who was golfing with him when the dude took a shot at him or was going to shoot at him at the golf course. The shitty one south of the airport near the strip club and the gun store across from the elementary school. Yeah.
Probably either this evening or tomorrow night.
Yeah, it's a done deal. Or 2 weeks from now, or not at all.
Confident there'll be a deal before January 28th, or that's something that's likely to happen? If there's a deal even at all, we've been hearing this now for another part.
I know. I would say.
They better be.
Right. I would say that the president is exasperated. I don't want to talk for him, but look, I don't know anyone who delegates better than President Trump.
Right. He just gave the whole thing to me and told me to go solve it. Man, that's the art of delegation. You should write a new book. The whole thing about like, I'm not going to do anything. Go fucking handle this. Brilliant.
He gives us a lot of authority to speak on his behalf. And
because he has no ideas of his own and he can blame you later. That's why, motherfucker. Solve it is the recipe. And if you fuck up anything you said on his behalf or trying to get the deal done or whatever, it's your ass, dummy. That's how this works.
He exhorts us to speak emphatically. And emphatically means you better get.
Yeah, talk loudly and carry a small stick that's shaped vaguely like a mushroom and only stays relatively stiff for under 3 minutes.
You better do this, because the alternative.
Do you think they're waiting?
The alternative's what? Whoa, 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 whoa. Don't interrupt him. What the fuck? Wait. Because the alternative what?
For President Trump to take office.
No, I think they heard him loud and clear. Better get done by the inaugural.
But when you say all hell will be
Before I
paid,
take
or
office.
all hell must be paid
That's
if they
right.
don't release the
Yeah, hey, dum-dum. The inaugural is when you take office. So before the inaugural means before you take office. The inaugural is when you actually take your oath to be, fuck me.
Well, you know what that means, don't you? What, do I have to define it for you? Look, all
No, I know
hell
you're not
will
gonna
break out.
telegraph
If
what-
those hot
Break loose. All hell breaks loose. Not out. Loose. All hell's breaking loose. Great Kiss song. Go listen to it. All hell breaks loose. It doesn't break out. It's not a fucking pimple from hell.
hostages aren't back, I don't want to hurt your negotiation. If they're not back by the time I get into office, all hell will break out in the Middle East.
Fuck does that mean? For real. What the fuck does that mean? In the Middle East, what are you gonna do? Bomb Qatar, you dumb fuck? In the Middle East, what are we gonna re-invade Iraq? If you guys don't release our hostages, we're gonna bomb all of Yemen, not just the Houthi parts, and fuck up everybody who looks vaguely brown for a 6,000-mile radius. Jesus Christ, this is so stupid.
And it will not be good for Hamas, and it will not be good, frankly, for anyone. All hell will break out.
For anyone, I agree. It won't be good for the Israelis. It won't be good for the Arab Israelis, the Jewish Israelis. It won't be good for the Jordanians. It'll be fucked for the Egyptians. It'll suck for the Qataris. Like, again, and all Hamas has to do on behalf of Iran is go, okay, fuck them. I don't like those people anyways. Hamas doesn't support Egypt. Hamas doesn't support Jordan. Shit, they barely support Hezbollah, but only because they're, the regions of Syria controlled by Hezbollah because Iran tells them to. Ideologically, they beat at each other's fucking throats. Technically, that Shia-Sunni division still exists, but they're strange bedfellows on this particular thing because everybody hates the Jews more. And the only thing, honest to God, the only thing he could be talking about, I think, is bombing Iran, is war with Iran. Nothing else even remotely makes sense, except for, I mean, the biggest obvious one is that it's all blustery bullshit.
I don't have to say anymore, but that's what it is. And they should have given them back a long time. They shouldn't.
It won't, like the most telling statement in this is not all hell will break out and blah, 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 is it won't be good for anyone.
And it will not be good for Hamas, and it will not be good, frankly, for anyone. All.
Well, if they want to die and you're going to make other people's lives worse, fuck do they care? He will destroy them, destroying us. Cool.
Break out. I don't have to say anymore, but that's what it is. And they should have given them back a long time. They should have never taken them.
Wow, Shazam, motherfucker.
There should have never been the attack of October 7th. People forget that. But there was. And
Right.
many people are killed. They're no longer hostages. I have people from Israel.
That's the other thing is they're going to get some fake bullshit message back, and he's going to make this dipshit carry it that says, actually, we gave you all the living hostages. The rest of them are dead. We don't have any Americans. We have some other people, but we don't have any Americans. All the Americans we had are dead. And he'll blame Biden for all the dead Americans who are probably still alive. And they'll have to be killed to cover for the fact that if they ever see the light of day, this will get out. You'd have to send in like a hit squad to kill everybody just so you don't look bad. But you can blame it on Biden. Look at all these people got killed under Biden.
And others calling, begging me to get, we had also people there from the United States, just so you know. They're holding some so-called hostages from the U.S.
So-called? Wait a minute. The Jan 6ers are hostages because they went through the U.S. court system and they're in a jail because they spit in a judge's face or threatened their own attorneys or refused even the lamest fucking plea deal. Those guys are hostages for real. Those are the Jan 6 hostages, not so-called, straight up calls them hostages. But the people who are caught by Hamas fighters, women dragged by their fucking hair, beaten and bleeding and raped, they're so-called hostages.
But I've had mothers come to me and fathers crying, can I get the body of their son back? Can I get the body of their daughter back? That beautiful girl where they threw her in the car, pulled her by her ponytail and threw her in the car like she was a sack of potatoes. I said, what happened to her? Sir, she's dead.
Yeah, she was dead in the video. All those average Palestinians we heard so much about that separate themselves from Hamas. You can watch the video. They're all spitting on her corpse as they roll through town. She's bleeding from her crotch because of what happened to her before and during the time she died. They have her body back already.
And
depending on who he's talking to, because he mix and matches so much shit, I can't even tell if he knows what the fuck he's talking to.
19, 20-year-old, beautiful girl, and the way they treated her. And I just say it this very simply. Steve's got a job to do. He's a great guy, great negotiator, great person. They respect him over there already. It's what we needed over there. We have people that know everything about the Middle East, but they can't speak properly. They don't know.
Hebrew or Farsi or what?
He's a great negotiator. That's what I needed. I could have sent that gentleman right over there, Hussein. He's a great negotiator. There are people, they're rare. Great negotiators are very rare, like a great surgeon.
Jesus Christ. No pressure, Witkoff, you dumb fuck.
But we have the right person. But I tell this, I don't want to hurt the negotiation.
But you don't care.
The deal isn't done before I take office, which is now going to be 2 weeks, all hell will break out in
Break loose, you shithead.
the Middle East. Okay?
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
President.
You've done a great job.
Thank you.
Also, in the Middle East, what are we talking about here? Are we going to bomb Cyprus? We're going to flatten the whole Levant?
Mr. President, more than 140 police officers were injured by rioters on January 6th. Will you pardon anyone who attacked a police officer?
Well, the only one that was killed was a beautiful young lady named Ashley Babbitt. She was killed, and there was actually somebody else that was killed, also a MAGA person, but people don't give it 100% credibility. I'm going to find out about it, and we're going to find.
What do you mean, Roseanne Boylan? The woman that was on meth and had a fucking heart attack while she was being stomped by her fellow maggots who were only paused from beating up cops to hand her body over to them, hoping that they would be able to save her.
Find out, but Ashley Babbitt was killed. She was
she got a big dose of found out.
shot.
Yep, for busting a window, punching a guy, and trying to crawl through as the first one through a window. Yeah. She would she have been shot if she wasn't in the building? Would she have been shot if she wasn't at the front of that crowd? Would she have been shot if she hadn't gone through the window first? There were a lot of other people who, were right behind her. None of them got shot because they all took that as lesson gained.
Should have never been shot.
Yeah, you're right. You should have never convinced her to go to the fucking Capitol and act like an asshole.
Was shot for no reason whatsoever.
She was trespassing. She was the first through a breached wall that was barricaded. There was the vice president and House personnel and House members who were beyond that. She had a knife in her bag. Shut the fuck up.
However, in fact, they say that she was trying to hold back the crowd, and the
Bullshit! She wasn't trying to. She punched a dude in the fucking face so she could be the first one through the door. She wanted to kill somebody first.
crowd was made up of a lot of different people, so we'll see. But I will tell you this.
What do you think? Hezbollah pushed her through the fucking window?
The person that was killed was Ashley Babbitt. The other thing is,
Yeah, what? Who gives a shit? Hey, does anybody think that during like the BLM riots, if a bunch of police officers got beat during that or whatever, but one person got shot in that crowd, he'd be like, only person who died that night was a BLM activist who, was, carrying a flag and was just approaching the police, sure the flagpole was sharpened and he tried to stab him with it. But the only person that I know of who was shot was shot by the police just because they threw Molotov cocktails.
when they talk, there was never charges of insurrection or anything like that.
Yes, there were. People got charged with insurrection.
But if there were, this would be the only insurrection in history where people went in as insurrectionists with not one gun.
No, there were a bunch of guns.
Okay? And let me tell you, the people that you're talking about have a lot of guns in their home for hunting and for shooting and for...
Yeah, but it's Washington, D.C., and they recognize that if a bunch of them, started shooting all at once, then the response would be to open fire. There were lots of guns.
Entertainment, a lot of good reasons. But there wasn't...
Entertainment. They have guns for entertainment,
one gun that they found.
Yes, they were. Literally footage of a guy firing his gun into the air, like on one of the scaffolds.
And why didn't they find the bomber, the pipe bomber? They know who the pipe bomber is. The FBI.
Yeah, obviously they know. So as soon as you get in, you tell us. If they know, you'll know. You're shit. You go there right now. Go ahead and take your loyalty oath, which is your pre-presidency clearance oath, and go look. Let everybody know.
The guy knows who it is.
Yeah, it's Marjorie Taylor Greene, pretty much, right? That's the thought. That's what he thinks.
The status of the FBI has gone down so far, and the status of the DOJ, or as I call it, the Department of Justice.
Justice.
It's the Department of Injustice. It's being laughed at all over the world.
Not really. Only for not throwing you in jail, I think. Yeah, I think they're laughing to some degree at America because Merrick Garland slow-walked it, and he should have busted you 2 years ago when we wouldn't be in this situation.
And hopefully with Pam Bondi and with Kash Patel and with other people that we're putting in, that will all come back.
It'll all come back.
If you do a poll in the FBI, I guarantee I'm at like 90% with the agents of the FBI, but they have hurt that incredible.
Why would 90% of the FBI like a guy who was friends with Jeffrey Epstein for over 2.5 decades? Why would they go, yeah, totally, huge fan? Why would anybody in law enforcement? Why would they be okay with that? You can like policies or something. You can go, yeah, we need something, we need this stuff, whatever. But the fucking guy is a monster. It's gross. I mean, if you were a real Republican, I guess you would go, I wish we had somebody who would do these policies who wasn't a fucking predator. I don't like it, but, I'm afraid of the stampeding border or whatever, and therefore, right?
Place law enforcement. I mean, you think of the FBI. They raided this house. By the way, they could.
This house is clear. You don't live in Mar-a-Lago. It's a rental.
Would have told me, could I see this? I would have given them. I actually.
No, you did for like a year.
Told them, come in anytime you want.
And they did. What's the problem?
You can see anything. They raided the house, and the case was dismissed.
Yeah, by Eileen Cannon, based on the idea that she doesn't believe it's legal to have independent counsels, not because of the merits of the case, dum-dum.
And now I'm in litigation. I'm suing them for doing that.
Please do, because the discovery will be fucking magic.
And I feel so badly doing it. I'm the president of the United States, and I'm suing the United States, but I'm suing them for other things.
Please do.
Two, the FBI has gone so, its reputation has been so horribly hurt between Comey, who is the worst, and
Yeah, he's the reason you won the first time.
all of the others. What's happened to
You mean the guy you put in?
the FBI is, and we're going to make it great again. We're going to make the FBI great again. We're going to make the Department of Justice fair and strong, but fair again, because all they did was attack
What's unfair about it?
me because I'm their political opponent, and that includes with local judges like Marchand. You ought to find out.
Why would that have to do with the FBI?
Ask them, why do I have a gag order where I'm not allowed to speak? Think of it.
Why do you even need to speak about those details? What difference does it make? It's not tried in the streets anyways. I mean, the only reason I can think of that you would want to talk about the details of the case in the public, beyond your own innocence, which you're allowed to do. You can talk about the merits of the case in terms of the paperwork you have. You can explain your accounting practices. Nobody's fucking stopping you. But there, you can't talk about some of the people because they're concerned that some of your maggot asshole friends will try to kill them. That would be it. I think that's pretty much why. Because other people can't get people killed just by talking about the case. Same reason mobsters often get gag orders.
I'm the president of the United States, and I'm not allowed to speak.
No, you're not allowed to, like, dox people or threaten them, I think.
Why?
Because the rules are the same for everybody?
Because if I did speak, people would understand the scam. It's a scam. And we have very dishonest judges, and New York judges are very bad. We had one that valued this house at $18 million because it was good for their case. He actually valued that chandelier is worth more than $18 million.
Yeah, but you can't do anything with it. It can make $18 million a year. That's the max it can bring in. But you can't sell it as this site, as Mar-a-Lago, because they have to leave it as such. And other people would not be able to buy it for $1 billion and turn it into something unless they want to make back that money over 25 fucking years by making $18 million a year. Nobody's going to spend $1.5 billion to make $18 million a year net on memberships and renting out a fucking event space unless they can bulldoze the fucking thing and turn it into something else. And if you do that, then it's going to cost you more and it's not worth it.
He valued this house as $18 million.
Yeah, then sell it for parts. Show them you're wrong and then try to sell the property and make them keep it Mar-a-Lago, and you won't.
And we have another one who was so nasty, so horrible, such a brute.
Oh, but was it hard? Were your fifis hurt?
Most vicious, vile person.
Oh, it's vicious and vile? Both?
These are New York judges.
Oh, they were New York. Oh, New York is usually so nice.
But we've won most of the cases, so we're
No, you haven't.
very happy about that. Please.
Back on Greenland, your position is clear, but have you directed your staff to take specific action to drop land? And can you elaborate again? You didn't rule out military coercion.
Well, we need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before
Why don't we just have a treaty with them and put a base there? Who cares?
I even ran. I mean, people have been talking about it for a long time.
No, they haven't.
You have approximately 45,000 people there. People really don't even know if Denmark has any legal right to it. But if they do,
Yeah, they do.
they should give it up because we need it for national security. That's for
Why? We can't trust Denmark? Are they going to throw their weight behind Russia?
the free world. I'm talking about protecting the free world.
From who? From Denmark?
You look at, you don't even need binoculars. You look outside, you have China ships all over the place.
You have China ships all over the place.
You have Russian
Where are they coming from?
ships all over the place.
Russian ships, I guess maybe make a little bit more sense, but no.
We're not letting that happen. We're not letting it happen.
Apparently we are.
And if Denmark wants to get to a conclusion, but nobody knows if they even have any right, title, or interest. The people are going to probably vote for independence or to come into the United States. But if they did do that, then I would tariff Denmark at a very high level.
Sorry. If the people of Greenland voted to separate from Denmark on their own and wanted to be part of the United States, you would retaliate against Denmark for letting it happen.
Your staff to draw plans for acquisition? I mean, are you acting?
No, we're not at that stage, but we have people. I haven't even entered office yet.
I thought you could do this in like 24 hours. It's a concept of a bullshit.
Secondly, sir,
It's a concept of a turd.
Elon Musk has drawn some criticism and a lot of attention for some of his actions and provocative statements about foreign affairs, including in Europe. Your reaction to that, is that appropriate for
You mean where he likes people that tended to be conservative? I don't know the people. I could say Elon.
Conservative. Yes, he tends to like people who are conservative, like the AFP, basically the neo-Nazi party in Germany.
He's doing a good job, very smart guy. I don't know the people you're talking about.
Maybe you should find out then. I mean, you are his vice president.
He was, I know he said some negative things about a couple of people that are running for office, but.
Yeah, that's all. He just said a couple of negative things about a couple of people that are running for office. He also supported a neo-Nazi party, which is not a negative thing per se that you're saying. It's a positive. He said a few positive things about some neo-Nazis.
That's not so unusual. Yes, please.
Yeah, you're right. It's not unusual.
I wanted to ask you about Ukraine and Putin. How soon do you anticipate going to meet with Putin to discuss the Ukraine situation?
Yeah, and will you follow your doctor's orders and only eat bland food leading up to that meeting?
Well, I can't tell you that, but I know that Putin would like to meet. I don't think it's appropriate that I meet until after the 20th, which I hate. Because, every day many young people are being killed, soldiers.
And some of them old.
The land is very flat.
It is. It's flat. That's true. And so if you fire a bullet, it just keeps traveling until it hits a person because gravity doesn't exist in that part of the world.
And hundreds of thousands of soldiers many hundreds of thousands from each side are dead. And they're laying in fields all over the place. Nobody to even collect. There's landmines all over. It's a disaster. But it's very...
Yeah, Russia doesn't pick up their dead anyways.
Very flat. It's great. It's farmland. And it's very...
Sure.
Very, very flat. And the only thing that stops a bullet is the human body.
Or I guess, gravity and dirt. And yeah. You do realize bullets don't have infinite range. It's just so dumb.
And the human body is stopping a lot of bullets.
Well, good for it. Thanks, human body. You're for taking one for the team, literally.
I hope so, yeah. I hope to have 6 months. No, I hope long before 6 months. Look, Russia's losing a lot of young people, and so is Ukraine. And it should have never been started. That's a war that should have never happened. I guarantee you, if I were president...
Yeah, whatever. Who gives a shit, man? It's bullshit.
That war would have never happened.
That's a lie, and it's garbage, and he knows it. And he's right to some degree that a war wouldn't have happened. It would have been just, Russia would have just bulldozed and taken Ukraine in a matter of days because it would have had the tacit support of the American leader. That's why. What he's saying is the attack would have happened, but it wouldn't have turned into a war because Russia would have just won very quickly because we would not have been there to rally NATO and support Ukraine. That's what he means. Notice he never says the attack wouldn't have happened. Russia was already in Ukraine.
Who would you like to nominate to replace Michael Barr as the vice chair of the Federal Reserve?
I'll be announcing somebody soon.
Mr. President, if we were to work under the assumption that you're serious about making Canada the first state of the United States.
No, fuck off with this. Stop asking about that bullshit. Stop. Ask him what he means by all hell breaks out. He's not going to attack allied countries. If Hamas doesn't care if other countries around them get destroyed in the process and they're willing to like suicide bomb themselves, then what difference does it make about him threatening? And so does that mean all-out war with Iran then? Because that's the only power proxy he, you know, like the PowerPoint he can hit. Otherwise, he's just fighting proxies.
The leader of the Conservative Party in Canada said, under no
Fucking Canada. Who gives a shit?
Maybe he won't win, but maybe he will. I don't care.
Points, you had suggested
Listen, I don't care what he says.
Sir, real fast, you said you were considering military force to acquire Panama and Greenland. Are you also considering military force to...
Oh, shut the fuck up. He's not going to attack. We're not attacking Canada, fuckwad. Stop it. This is a question you're asking just because you want him to say something. He's so dumb. Sometimes he says stuff that makes like an, oh my God, he's going to attack Canada, which is, will eat a fucking headline for a while. Ask some real fucking questions about what he suggested. The only operative point he can do in the Middle East to attack Hamas further than what's happened in Gaza already, besides leveling the whole place, hostages and all, which he seems to be fine with. Nice work, uncommitted. Nice work, I guess, left-leaning Muslim towns in Michigan, right? The only option he has is to attack Iran. And if he says all hell will break out in the Middle East, what he means is we're going to invade Iran. That's all that can mean. Either we do it or Israel does it with our backing. That's the only thing it could mean. Hamas and IS don't give a shit. What are we going to do? Bomb the fucking West Bank? What are you talking about? That is the only option. And I don't want to hear shit about forever wars if this motherfucker is talking about starting a war with Iran for real. Which, I mean, again, would be seen by even like the most dyed-in-the-wool maggots as a proxy war with Russia. Because Iran and Russia can't decide whose puppet each is.
Annex and acquire Canada?
No. Economic force. Because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada.
From what? From what?
But here's the problem with Canada.
I'm going to go with snow, eh?
So many friends up there. I love the Canadian people. They're great.
Apparently not.
But we're spending hundreds of billions a year to protect it.
No, we're not. We're protecting us using parts of their territory.
We're spending hundreds of billions a year to take care of Canada.
No, we're not. We're not. There's no like North Canada, South Canada, DMZ. We've got soldiers patrolling. What the fuck?
We lose in trade deficits. We're losing massive. We don't need their cars.
That's what he's talking about. He's talking about trade deficits. Because Canada, while physically bigger, has a smaller economy. And so they fucking have tariffs against Wisconsin cheese because Wisconsin produces more dairy than all of Canada. And if they just let it, they're against the Nippon Steel, U.S. Steel deal because we have to be able to produce steel in the United States using steel plants here and steel workers. And that's important and all this. Okay, same thing is true of foodstuffs everywhere in the world. And if you get swamped by your neighbor and then your neighbor gets in deep shit because they get involved in a war or a trade war or they run out of supplies because they're run by a dipshit, you don't have any way to like jumpstart your entire production of dairy and agricultural goods. You're fucked.
Cars, they make 20% of our cars. We don't need that. I'd rather make them in Detroit. We don't need the cars. We don't need their lumber. We have massive fields of lumber. We don't need their lumber.
We have fields of lumber? They're just fields of lumber. Lumder? What is that what I said?
We have to unrestrict them because stupid people put, restrictions on, but I can do that with an executive order.
No, you can't.
We don't need anything they have. We don't need their dairy products. We have more than they have.
He's so close.
We don't need anything. So why are we losing $200 billion a year and more?
Because we have more money than they do, so we buy more things from everybody. They don't have an economy big enough to buy an equal amount of goods from us, stupid.
To protect Canada. And
again, we're not protecting them. We're protecting ourselves.
Said that to, as I called him, Governor Trudeau. I said, listen, what would happen if we didn't subsidize you, if we didn't, because we give them a lot of money. We help them. As an example, we're buying icebreakers, and Canada wants to join us in the buying of icebreakers. I said, we don't really want to have a partner in the buying of icebreakers. We don't need a partner.
Why would that be a subsidy?
But
fuck does that have to do with anything? I mean, again, a terrible example. Nowhere near the point.
No right. Nope. No right. Here's what we have. We have a right not to help them with their financial difficulties because we owe $36 trillion too. We're going to start knocking it out pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to be able to do it because of energy and other things. But no right. No right. But why are we supporting a country, $200 billion plus a year? Our military is at their disposal. All of these other things, they should be a state. That's why I told Trudeau when he came down, I said, what would happen if we didn't do it? He said Canada would dissolve. Canada wouldn't be able to function if we didn't take their 20% of our car market. They send us hundreds of thousands of cars. They make a lot of money with that. They send us a lot of other things that we don't need. We don't need their cars, and we don't need the other.
Well, if we don't need them, then why are we buying them? Apparently we do.
The products, we don't need their milk. We got a lot.
Again, this is all about the dairy shit.
A lot of milk. We got a lot of everything. And we don't need any of it. So I said to him, well, why are we doing it? He said, I don't really know. He was unable to answer the question.
I think he just didn't know what the fuck you were talking about. Hold on. Wait 1 second. I gotta, okay. Trump's more than 100 million or $100 billion a year. False, according to the United States government's foreign assistance website. The U.S. has not spent more than $35 million in a single fiscal year on financial assistance for Canada since 2001. In 2023, the U.S. trade deficit with Canada was $41 billion. Yeah, this number isn't anywhere near. And he's saying billion, too. All these Snopes things say million. Trudeau says not a snowball's chance in hell Canada would become the 51st state. If we're subsidizing Canada and Mexico, let them become a state of the United States. This is his statement, I guess. Former in Mexico, but okay, this is just them kind of subsidizing, like creating his statement. Jesus. Yeah. 100 million, 100 billion, just false. We have a $34 billion trade deficit. This is fucking nothing.
But I can answer it. We're doing it because of habit. And we're doing it
yeah, it's just habit. Yeah, the Republicans, doesn't matter who's in office, we just habitually give money to Canada because we're just, you know what? It's just, we're just habitually sweet.
Because we like our neighbors, and we've been good neighbors. But we can't do it forever, and it's a tremendous amount of money.
It's a fictional amount of money.
And why should we have a $200 billion deficit? And
we don't. We have a $34 billion deficit. And again, it's a smaller country. They could never catch up with us in what we can buy from them and equalize it because there's just no fucking way. Any country smaller than us, more than likely, is going to have a trade deficit unless they have some sort of primary good that we just cannot live without and that we get from someplace. I mean, you could argue that I don't know, maybe South Korea or something like that, or Japan. There's a potential where we need chips or electronics from them so badly that we can't equal it out. And so it's like, 1 to 1. Like they need food and we need chips, so it's almost even though they're much smaller. God, this is dumb.
Add on to that many, many other things that we give them in terms of subsidy.
We don't. Like what? Name one thing. Add on to it, but give me one.
And I said, that's okay to have if you're a state. But if you're another country, we don't want to have it. We're not going to have it with European Union either. European Union, we have a trade deficit of $350 billion.
Right. Because we have the biggest economy in the world by far. We buy more shit from them. Period. How? The European Union is a loose collection of countries, but they all, they, unlike the United States, which is a united group like the European Union, we all speak fairly close the same language and have a unified constitution that we all operate under. Our legal system is the same, state to state. The European Union is not. They hash some shit out and they have the euro, but that's for like inter-country trade between them, largely, just to smooth it out instead of having 35 different, or I guess 32 different, 31 now because the Brits have gone back to the pound, different currencies.
They don't take our cars. They don't take our farm product.
They buy our, yes they do. They just don't buy as much because they're smaller than us.
They don't take anything.
Yes they do. Believe me, I filmed Queer as Folk up there for 6 years. They take a lot. What?
And so we're not going to have it with them either. Brian, go ahead.
Yes. Happy New Year, by the way.
Thank you.
We have some breaking news. You may not be aware of this. It looks like Cannon has blocked the DOJ from releasing the Smith's report until further court proceedings. Get your thoughts on
Wow,
that.
that's a big story.
Yeah.
So
why block it? If you're innocent and it'll prove your innocence.
if I get it right,
You won't.
the fake witch hunt started by the DOJ having to do with books and records, and Biden had many more, and he wasn't protected by the Presidential Records Act.
Yes, he is, because Obama gave him the same classification, declassification powers as the president on the very first day he took office in 2009.
But all of that fake stuff that took the lives of people, literally destroyed people. People are destroyed because of what they did. Destroyed.
Such who? Walt?
But we got to be president.
We?
But Biden did it for 40 years. He did it when he was a senator. That was illegal. And they ruled it was illegal. How about that?
No, they didn't.
They said, it's illegal, but he's unfit to stand trial. So he can stand.
No, that's not what it said at all. I think the Her report, which is what he's talking about, stated that basically you couldn't prove he did it maliciously. It was just, staff did it or some stuff got stuffed in with things, but they couldn't prove it was intentional because so much time has passed and he's older. Her was like, he could just pretend to forget or say, I don't recall. And there's no way you could try him because there's no proof that he did it. He didn't take them and sell them. He didn't store them in an untoward place. Like none of that stuff. That's what it was. They're eating the dogs.
And be president of the United States. But the prosecutor found that he's unfit for trial. I was going to use that as a major talking point, but I never got to use it because all of a sudden I had a new candidate who was also sort of unfit to stand trial, right?
No.
But so what you're saying is that the judge just blocked the. So Cannon was thrown off the case. They.
No, she wasn't.
Dropped their appeal because he had no case.
Oh, I'm sorry. He thinks Jack Smith is Eileen Cannon now. Okay.
They dropped all of that, the lawsuits against us.
He obviously dropped his pronouns.
They lost the lawsuit. So this is deranged Jack Smith. So he dropped the lawsuits. He was told to by the DOJ because they had no lawsuit. They lost in court.
No, they didn't. They didn't lose in court at all. She just thought that having an independent prosecutor was violated federal law, which we fought before and is unconstitutional. And if it went to the Supreme Court, would get thrown out. But again, Merrick Garland helped you run out the clock.
In front of a very strong and a very brilliant judge. They lost in court,
Yeah, no, they didn't. None of it is not on the merits.
and that pertained to other cases in other courts.
No, it didn't.
So he wanted to do a report just before I take office, probably. So he'll do like a 500-page report, and it'll be a fake report, just like the investigation was a fake investigation.
Well, okay, then have him release it. Who gives a shit? Just make fun of it. You fucking post it on, have people read it on Rumble.
And I said, well, wait a minute. This guy was thrown off in disgrace. In disgrace. He's gone
He wasn't disgraced at all. At all. This is weird.
back to The Hague or wherever they're going to send him in disgrace because he failed so badly.
No, he didn't. She ran interference for you. Nobody actually thinks it's so fucking weird.
Because it was a fake case against a political opponent. They thought
Yeah, but he was appointed to do it. Even, I mean, he took the job, I guess is the most you could say about him, but he didn't concoct it himself.
they were going to use this to beat me. So what you're saying is I'm just hearing that they're
Okay, I'm just hearing this now, so whatever I say is total bullshit.
not allowed to issue the report. So if they're not allowed to issue the report, that's the way it should be. Because he was thrown off the case in disgrace. Why should he be allowed to write a fake report? It'll only be
I don't know. What have you got to be afraid of? If the report has details in it, you know, it'll probably prove just how amazingly innocent you are.
a fake report. That's great news. Good.
And if I can just follow up real quickly, you want to comment, many Americans are angry that we're sending millions of dollars every month to the Taliban. Do you anticipate?
It's not even believable.
Well, they're running Afghanistan thanks to this asshole, and the money isn't money directly to them. We're spending money getting like medicine and food that goes to Afghans. Just saying.
Billions of dollars, not millions, billions. We
Again,
pay billions of dollars to essentially the Taliban,
essentially.
Afghanistan. And that's given by Biden. That's the same man that took away $50 to $60 trillion worth of value from the United States. Think of it. Probably our most valuable asset.
No, it's not. Oil is not our most valuable asset. Fuck you. The American people's ingenuity and hard work are. Eat shit. Go away. What's wrong with you? How is this America first? Stop shitting on America, asshole, in front of two flags.
Took away our most valuable asset.
No. Again, the ingenuity and hard work of the American people is our most valuable asset. Human life.
This can't be allowed to happen. We are now a nation of common sense.
Okay. So commonly you would say that this money is going where?
When he does that, 625 million acres, this can't be allowed to happen. Thank you for the information. Yes, sir. Most other people probably knew about it, but they wouldn't have told me, right?
Shouldn't you know? Your lawyers should have told you. It's your fucking case.
On the campaign trail, you vowed to bring down the prices at grocery stores very fast.
Yeah, we will do it
And
fast.
you recently told Time Magazine that bringing down prices would be very hard. So what can the American people expect when you get into office?
It's always hard to bring down prices when somebody else has screwed something up like they did, but we'll bring them down. We'll get them down. Energy is going to bring down prices. We're going to have a lot of energy, and energy is what brought it up. Energy and their bad spending is what
And their bad spending on stupid things like infrastructure.
brought it up, and energy is going to bring it down. We're going to have prices down. I think you're going to see some pretty drastic price reductions. As an example, food, bacon.
Oh yeah, bacon's coming right down. They're making pigs at Mar-a-Lago like as he speaks.
Ham
and bacon.
Apples. Everything is gone.
Bacon, apples, everything that you see in an old picture from the 40s of a giant meal.
Through the roof. It's one of the reasons I won.
Bacon and apples, ham, maybe. Well, doesn't the pig come with one apple at least in its mouth? I mean, that's a free apple right there. I mean,
So as you know, I said it, inflation was one of the reasons I won, but I think the biggest reason I won was the fact that
racism.
They are allowing prisoners to come into our country. They release their prisoners, their murderers. Thousands of murderers are now walking around the streets of our cities and farmland all over, murdered.
Just walking around murdering weeds.
People that have killed, many, 32% have killed more than one person. They release them from
32% of who?
their jails.
Sorry, 32% of illegal migrants have killed at least one person?
Prisons and their mental
Or what?
institutions and insane asylums into our country.
Well, they may be nuts, but murder is very effective. Murderers and travelers, they've got to get it
That's
down.
the reason we got such a large vote. All right, maybe one or two more questions. Yeah, please, go ahead. Go ahead, you go. You have to ask.
Can you, President Carter is laying in state today in Washington. You had some harsh words for him about the Panama Canal. Is there any disconnect there? Do you feel a little bit bad about doing that on this day?
No, I liked him as a man. I disagreed with his policy. So, hey, he thought giving away the Panama Canal was a good thing. I think it cost him the election. That and the hostages. I actually think that was a bigger
Yeah, this is so stupid. Who cares what the fuck you think?
factor, because that's a deal that just should not have been made. But again, this was a question that was asked of me. I didn't bring it up. I didn't want to bring up the Panama Canal because of Jimmy Carter's death. But people don't bring it up. But, you know, you and other people have asked me about it. No.
Right, yes, because you brought it up, they asked you about what you said about it, and now it's their fault for bringing it up.
It's a deal that I was very strongly against. I was a young guy when this took place, but
Yeah, it was one of his first op-eds. Why aren't we throwing more black kids in jail? And what's this Panama Canal shit?
just why would we spend all of that money, lose 38,000 people to malaria, the mosquito?
I don't know, maybe you don't want to hang around in an area where the malaria and the mosquito is so bad you could continue to lose tens of thousands of people when you could just have a management contract?
They were dying. It was horrible.
Because you built it through their country. You literally cut their country in half.
Horrible what was happening. They paid them 4 times more than they would make in the United States, but they knew they were going to go over there and die. And
Really? And it was worth it. Like, all right, I'll die, but it better be for a good amount of money. I want to die 4 times as rich as I would have died in the same circumstance and a period of time.
they died in the jungles of malaria. There was nothing we could do to.
Are there jungles in malaria? I haven't been there, but I understand. I think it's probably they all been burned to the ground now and used for farmland.
Stop at 30th, and then we gave it away
I'm fairly certain this motherfucker thinks malaria is a country.
for $1.
Congress, sir, about getting your agenda through Congress. You appeared to open the door in your radio interview yesterday for 2 bill approaches. It's still your preference for one big, beautiful bill, as you said.
Well, I like one big, beautiful bill, and I always.
Yeah. Hey, Chip Roy and all you assholes. We're not going to cut this up. We're going to divide it up into other pieces. Nah, fuck you. It's going to be one giant bill. I want a giant omnibus. Everybody on board. All of you sign it all at once. None of this working things through, saving money by going through different sections. We're not going to have 12 different appropriations. I want one fucking thing.
I always will. But if 2 is more certain, it does go a little bit quicker because you can do the immigration stuff early. Now, you have to understand, for immigration and for the wall, we won the case on the wall. You know, they tried to sell the wall for 5 cents on the dollar, by the way. And we had, fortunately, a judge that stopped that. But they were already discarding the wall. And 5 cents on the dollar. And you know what they were doing? They were calling us up and saying, we'll sell it back to you at 200 cents. In other words, double.
200 cents? Wow. What's that in 2025 cents?
What we paid for it.
200 cents. They're making 195 cents on that deal. How much is that in dollars? God. That's like enough money to fill the ocean.
So they were going to buy it from this guy for 5 cents.
This fucking guy.
To the dollar. They were making deals.
Yeah, these deals with these guys and these fucking guys.
Unfortunately, we had a very smart judge that stopped it cold. I think he called for an investigation, too, and he should. But
if he didn't, which he probably did, but I don't know if he did, but he might have.
But think of it. They were selling the wall that was exactly the wall that the Border Patrol wanted. That was
Yeah, not the cool wall I wanted, this shitty thing they keep telling me.
Designed by them.
The slats and the fucking anti-climb thing and story.
Steel, concrete, rebar.
Concrete.
Exactly as it was.
Exactly.
Very, very heavy steel.
I got him to speak. I'm starting to get Carol Channing mouth.
Very powerful steel, hard to cut. Very, very heavy 7,000-pound concrete, which is a...
Most steel is hard to cut, I will say. I mean, if your scale is pi to steel, on that scale, it's harder to cut. Just saying.
Very strong concrete.
It's very strong concrete.
Everything was top of the line. Very expensive. Would be double what we paid for it then. 5
cents on the dollar. 195. It's higher. That's more than double. It is more than double.
Years ago. But let me just tell you, they were selling it for 5 cents on the dollar to people.
Which dollar? Was there a dollar under every 5 cents? So it was $1.05? They were getting $1.05 for every dollar's worth of... That seems better.
And those people were calling us, asking us to pay them 200 cents because it's a good deal.
I got to say, I love 200 cents. I love that he's saying he can't say $2. Because $2 on the dollar sounds dumb. They want $2 on the dollar. So he's saying 200 cents for every 5 cents, and to him, 200 is so much higher than 5. So he's got to say it like that, but he's now backed himself into a corner where he has to keep saying 200 cents.
Because we can have it immediately.
We can have it for 200 cents at a time. And that's no sense. We're the common sense people, and they're the 200 cents people.
And you know what immediately is? Just leave it in place.
What is immediate? Immediately would be now?
No.
No.
The papers haven't written that, though.
No, the papers have not.
You know, that deal is like all the other things that these people do. These people either hate our country or they're very stupid. And I don't believe they're stupid because nobody can cheat on elections like they cheat and be stupid.
Well, they would have won then if they were cheating.
They either hate our country or they're stupid. So remember what I said.
Or they hate the idea of the wall and they know it won't work and you have to create an access road to build the wall itself, and it actually makes it easier for people to cross the border.
Because nobody wants to report it. They were
all right, at some point, kids, I got to go to Texas and walk along the border to the edge of it. I got to find like one of these places where it stops and show you what the fuck I'm talking about and do a live report from there. It's the only way I can do it. I'm going to have to do that soon. It's time for me to start this year, especially. I got to do some special report. I got to do a live stream. Yeah, road trip, fucking A. I need to find we'll have like little fan get-togethers for the people in Texas or Arizona or something like that. There might even be a place in California. Fuck yeah, there might be an end of the wall in California. Although I think that again, natural barriers being what they are. Yeah, I'd also like to get press credentials at the White House at some point. I don't know how. I mean, I think he and his people are giant pussies and wouldn't let me. I'm just saying it right now. They're weak and pusillanimous and pathetic and would be afraid of somebody like me asking questions. So I don't see it happening, but not because I don't deserve it or something like that, or I'm not part of the legacy media. And, as independent media, I think they've said that that's the most valuable part of it, of our media right now is independent media. But I don't think they let me in because I think they're weak and thin-skinned and stupid and incapable of answering a second question on any topic. So here's the key. By the way, reporters, if I may. Oh, yes, I will ask Brian Karam about this. I'm buttering him up. Yes, I'm trying to get in early there. So here's what I think, press people, what you should do is there are some obvious questions people are going to ask about all of these topics. And eventually somebody's going to get it in there. Either they get it as their first question or their second question. When you get to when somebody asks the surface question about the wall or whatever it is, don't re-ask the question when it's your turn. Just say, following on what was said about what you said about the wall, this, right? Are you concerned that the wall, unlike a natural barrier or a fencing, you have to create a flat piece of road for the structure that allows people to walk to the end of it when it reaches private land or Indian land, and they just seem to walk right around it because that's just the limitations of it. And if you'd have just left it as a natural barrier, they wouldn't be able to go around it. But since you insist on a wall being the entirety of the structure, you actually make it easier for them to get around the wall. Why is that a good thing? Why is creating an access road on the Mexico side of the border wall, that makes it easier for migrants to go around the barrier better than just leaving natural barriers that people couldn't cross previous? Because obviously numbers are up after the wall was built. The crossing numbers were lower before the wall was built, and this is partly why. See what I mean?
Selling the wall for 5
cents on the 200 cents.
cents on the dollar and trying to resell it back to us for 200 cents or less.
189 cents, 192 cents, 137 cents, $1.50, $1.25. I got 2 bits.
But for 200 cents on the dollar, that's a...
See, he didn't want to say $2 on the dollar, so he had to say 200 cents on the dollar.
That's a nice return.
That's a nice return, 200 cents on the dollar.
That is the Capitol Police stop putting fact checks on a post on its website. And
Say it.
That said they would stop putting fact checks on its website and selling off community.
Well, I watched their news conference, and I thought it was a very good news conference. I think they've come a long way. Meta, Facebook. I think they've come a long way. I watched it. The man was very...
Oh, this is the thing is Zuckerberg says he's going to stop fact-checking on Facebook. Because he looked at the business model on X, and it was going so well, he's like, hey, what if I turn Facebook into that? I mean, it's not like they can fucking leave.
Very impressive. I watched it. Actually, I watched it on Fox. I'm not allowed to say that.
Why are you not allowed to say that?
Say it?
Do you think he's directly responding to the threats that you have made to him in the past?
Probably. Yeah, probably.
The last time you were here, you were asked a question about the U.S.
So, sorry, the head of the federal government threatens a private business owner, and the private business owner acquiesces to the threats coming from the federal government, and that's a good thing. Okay.
Possibly launching
Sounds like freedom to me.
a preemptive strike on Iran. You said you wouldn't answer that question.
On who?
Obviously, on Iran. The U.S. launching a preemptive strike on Iran's nuclear facilities.
And I said, I don't talk about it.
Right, and that's understandable, but it is a legitimate question.
Well, it's not really, because only a stupid person would answer it. Look, it's a military strategy, and I'm not answering your questions on military strategy. All right, one more. Brian, go ahead. Brian.
Could you give us a preview of what you might be talking to?
He goes back to fucking MTG's side piece.
Leaders of Congress who are expected to come here in the next couple of days, and you've got a very supportive Congress behind you.
They are. They're great. So we have a wonderful Republican Congress. We have
Yeah, you got a 2-vote margin.
a leader that I have a lot of confidence in. I think he's going to be, hopefully, a great leader.
Hopefully. Yeah, yeah. You have a lot of confidence. That's why you use the word hopefully. Nothing shows confidence like going, hopefully. Yeah, I think it's, yeah, no. I have total faith in that guy. I think he might, actually pull it off.
A great speaker. And we have a leader, by the way, in the Senate, I think has been great. John Thune has been doing a fantastic job.
Fantastic job.
But it goes through the House first. And the question is whether or
Right, but it's got to pass the Senate, so it's got to do both.
not we do the 2 bills or 1 bill. And, look, I can live either way. I like the idea of the one big bill, but I can live either way. But they'll
What if Chip Roy wants it broken up into 12?
be coming down. The senators also will be coming down, and then ultimately we'll be meeting in the White House in a few weeks. But right now, this is the winter season. They sort of call this the winter White House. It was built, I don't know if you know this, Marjorie Meriwether Post and E.F. Hutton built this. It was the greatest of all the estates in our country.
Oh, yeah, it was the greatest. It sounds very elite to me, I got to say. E.F. Hutton and Marjorie Post.
And I saved it, and I got a lot of credit for saving it. Most of these big, great houses have been knocked down in Palm Beach.
Right, that's how you make the big money. But if you don't knock them down, you can't make the big money. So it's really only worth $18 million. See how that works, fuckhead?
Just about all of them, actually. And they,
Yeah, that's because that's where the money is and knocking them down, right? You want it to be a landmark. Eventually it will be, by the way. I'm just letting you know. It's going to get bulldozed.
You'd build 10 mansions on one site, but...
Right, that's how, again, that's why that space would be worth $1.5 billion. That's what happened to the other houses along the coast that were nearby on pieces of property that were close.
We saved it, but this was built as the Southern White House, and she...
No, it wasn't. She called it that. She wanted it to be that. Doesn't mean it was.
Gave it to the government, and...
This isn't fucking Nanjing, asshole.
By the way, Jimmy Carter gave it back. He said it's too expensive for the United States. So I didn't realize that.
Real quick, I was just told.
Actually, Jimmy Carter, Nixon was through Watergate. He came down. Nixon came here once, and he thought it was incredible. But he had a thing called Watergate, if anybody remembers that. And so he had other things on his mind, to put it mildly. And
yeah, Jews mostly, it seems, if you listen to the recordings.
Jimmy Carter felt that it was too extravagant for the country. So fortunately for me, he gave it back to the foundation, and I bought it from the foundation.
Right, and you can't sell it without it costing you a bunch of back taxes and that kind of stuff. So it'd be more, you'd lose more than you'd gain, and they'd still have to okay the sale. So therefore, it's only worth $18 million.
Reconciliation.
Because that's the most you can make out of it every year, any given year.
Some Republicans saying in trade for a massive bill that you and they share the interest in, they want to see big spending cuts. Do you agree with that? And what would
I'm okay with spending. I like spending
cuts.
cuts. I'm on the record for spending cuts. And the debt ceiling was given to us. It shouldn't have been, but it was put in our lap. And what I want in terms of debt ceiling isn't the ceiling. I just don't want to see a default. That's all I want. I never.
Yeah, well then just then fucking tell people you got to tighten your belt, America. We're gonna cut the fuck out of this thing. We're not gonna hit the debt ceiling anymore. Fuck that. We're not gonna default at all. Shit, we're just gonna basically run on fumes for the first 4 years. Federal government won't have any funds whatsoever. If states want the FBI to help them track a serial killer or a big white-collar crime thing or whatever, they're going to have to pay a fee.
We talked about spending more money necessarily than all I want to see is no default, because nobody knows what would happen if there was a default.
Yeah, everybody knows what would happen if there was a default, shithead. It's happened before.
It could be 1929 and it could be nothing.
I'm leaning more towards the 1929 part.
But that was put into our lap.
Into your lap?
And it shouldn't have been, but it was.
What? Every president has to deal with it, stupid.
And so we'll handle it.
And a lot of it has to do with your spending. Spending okayed by you. Biden brought the deficit down.
But debt ceiling is not about raising a lot of money. It's really just about extending it. I just want to see an
Yeah, that's all it is. It's not about raising money. It's about extending the money. You know, it works. Look, that's what we're doing. Get rid of the debt ceiling. We're extending money. Who doesn't like that?
Extension.
What the does hey, maggots, anybody know what the shit? What does that mean? What does extending money mean? We're just extending money. What does that mean? There's got to be a maggot in here somewhere. What does he mean? Please explain the like, I don't even need the math. I just need the fucking grammar. The order of the words and their syntax and meaning.
Sir, on immigration, how much can you do by executive order? Are you planning to do on executive order when it comes to immigration? And how much do you want Congress to tackle this issue? And also on day one,
well, I have the safest border in the history of our country by far. You remember the famous chart that I brought down? I love that chart very much for a lot of reasons.
Mainly because the drop was right at the beginning of COVID shutdown, and you were president through the rest of it, and it went up precipitously after that point. Unless you're saying you stopped being president in April of 2020.
But I have the safest border by far.
COVID.
In the history of our country. And
COVID, right at COVID, literally the lockdown, right at the lockdown.
When I took it over, it was a mess. Nothing like it is.
No, it wasn't.
Now.
Well, yeah, it's the wall, obviously. When you took it over, there was no wall. Now there's a wall.
This is...
And the wall fucked up everything.
10 times worse. I got elected because of the border the first time, and I think I got elected largely because of the border the third time. And the second time I did equally well. Well, not as well as the last time, but I did very well.
Actually, you did better in votes. You got fewer votes this time.
And I will say, this was too big to rig. You know the expression? Too big to rig. They couldn't do it. They tried, but they couldn't do it.
They didn't try. They didn't do it. They didn't do it the time before, and they didn't do it now.
I didn't get very much from Congress at all. I just said that we're being invaded, and I took the money out of the military.
That's for the building of the wall. That's different from policing the streets, going door to door, rounding people up. That's what they're talking about. We're not talking about building a fucking barrier by pilfering other shit when you said Mexico was going to fucking pay for it.
Much of the wall, I built over 500 miles of wall.
Yeah, 40 miles past the barrier that already existed. The difference was you turned a bunch of fencing into wall, and therefore you created an access road on the other side of it, which made it easier to traverse again.
Much of that wall was built through money that I put into the military.
Yeah, money that was supposed to go to military personnel and national security and the like, sure.
We took it out because we couldn't get things from Congress in those days, and we took it out. And that wall was built largely with money coming from the military. So
the military of Mexico, obviously. He means because Mexico was going to pay for it 100%. I remember the phrase being 100%.
Very simple. I went to the military. I said, our country is.
I went to the the military and I said, I don't speak Spanish. Can someone interpret what I'm about to say to these folks? And they're like, we're the American military. He's like, no, for purposes of this exercise, you're Mexico. We are? Yeah, just work with me.
Being invaded by very similar, nothing like what's invading our country now. They weren't releasing prisons into our country, and they weren't releasing
whole prisons.
Releasing mental institutions in, but
the whole institute, the building. All right, well, maybe we could turn the building, convert it into apartments or something. That'd be good. I've always felt like a prison, if you did some sort of modern upkeep, you could do kind of like, knock down walls and have like a 3 cells could be one small apartment. You know what I mean? You could do this kind of like cohabitating living thing. And I don't know, it's a thought. I've been working on it for a while.
Some bad dudes were coming in, right?
Bad dudes. Hombres, I think you called them.
And I said, our country is being invaded. And I
by hombres,
took that money largely from the military. I was sued 9 times by the Democrats in Congress, and I won all those suits. And we ended up building 571 miles of wall. Once that wall was built, they start going around it. So we're going to.
Right, that would be the access road that you created by turning fencing into a giant structure, which requires digging down into the earth and creating a concrete structure that you can't dig below, because if you don't go deep enough and they do dig below it, the whole thing could collapse, which it did in a couple of places, so they had to redo it. So there's a giant flat road on either side of it. Dum-dum.
Add another 200. That would have been up in 3.
Yeah, so they can just walk to another part of Mexico and come around that way. So instead of going to like Juarez or wherever it is on the other side of the El Paso, they'll just whatever the next they'll end up walking through in fucking Arizona.
3 weeks, and then we had a very unfortunate election result, and they said, we don't want to put it up, we'll sell it. And they started selling it for 5 cents on the dollar. What a second.
Yeah, we heard that story before. It's still bullshit, but you covered that part. So why would, my question is, how would crossing actually get worse with the wall? I mean, that's the thing. Why would, after the wall, the numbers go up? People thinking they can cross, thinking they can make it through, trying to make the cross, and at the places where there was wall. Like all the places we saw, like the big gatherings where they were sneaking around, they were going around the edges of the wall. There was plenty of wall. We didn't see them near the sort of chain link fence areas.
We'll do this again. I just want to thank everybody very much. I'm just telling you, this will be the golden age of America. This is the.
Yeah, the golden age of America was the Industrial Revolution. I don't want to go back to fucking kids working in factories and tuberculosis.
Golden age of America. We're going to have a great country again.
Why gold also? The fool's golden age? The gilded age? Right, yeah.
We're a country right now under siege. We have so many different problems, and nobody respects us overseas, but now they do. The Italian prime minister, as you know, came here the other night, just flew in and flew out. She wanted to
try the chocolate cake.
She wanted to see me. And great respect is being shown when I went to the cathedral. in France. Great respect was...
Yeah, the cathedral. You remember the cathedral in France. It's in France. I forget the name of it, but it's a cathedral of some sort. Nope. Damn. Nope. Damn, what's the name? Is it, no. Try again. Damn. Nope. Damn. I'll think of it later.
Shown by the Prime Minister, the President, by everybody. France was, and by the way, I have to say they did a great job in the cathedral. But
the cathedral? Which one? Which cathedral are you talking
great
about?
respect is being shown to our country again.
Yeah, because you're a lunatic. People think they have to kiss your ass, and they also know you're easily pliable, so that you think it's respect, and it's really just fear and manipulation. Some people just want to leverage your stupid, weak ego, and other people are afraid you're a nutcase.
And we have a great country, but we have to...
I agree.
...run it properly. It's going to be run properly.
Yeah, the trains will run on time. Is that that's your argument?
We want to get back those hostages for Israel. And for us, you know, we do have people that are hostages being held. And I'll just say it again. If this deal's not done with the people representing our nation, by the time I get to office, all hell is going to break out. Thank you very much.
All hell's going to break out. Have you seen Gaza? You think hell, what the fuck do you think's happening? What, you going to do something worse than what Israel managed to do with the fucking beepers?
Thank you.
I'm going to wander away. Off I go. Thanks, Hussein, for standing there the whole fucking time. That poor guy, he should have at least been able to take a seat. Jesus. Well, we got through it, kids. Congratulations. Success. Again, gibberish, and I would remind you that all those things you see where people tell you don't obey in advance, don't comply in advance, fear and you know, anxiety are a way of complying in advance. Do not allow this asshole to weaponize your empathy and your fear, to weaponize your imagination and turn it into worry, which is exactly what worry is. It's weaponized imagination. Remember that. Don't let it happen. Do not. Take it back. Have all your faculties. Know that life will go on. People weaker than you have been through worse times with fewer resources and fewer options. And we too, you know, this too shall pass, and we will get through it. And we will have work to do taking care of people who are really on the receiving end of this shit. And it requires those of us that can stand to make sure that we don't get wobble-kneed, you know, when other people need help. I hope that came across well and not too judgmental. I mean, a little judgmental is okay. A little. Right? So, that said, see you tomorrow.